he had this intuitive way of reading somebody. And he said, Jerry, I said, yeah. He said, you know what's going to be the hardest thing for you to deal with? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, to do nothing. And I never have forgotten that. And I know he was talking about himself, too.
There were times when I looked at him, he looked very lonely. And I'd look at him and I think, he's not even where he wants to be right there. He's not feeling anything right now. Times I'd go over to him. I say, hey, boss. Hey, Sonny. About ready to go? Yeah, let's go. Get him out of that. He wasn't enjoying it. I apologize. I get emotional.
I'd like to say that I learned very early in life that
just rough.
Without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road would never bend. Without a song. So I keep singing a song. When I was a child, ladies and gentlemen, I was a dreamer. I read comic books and I was the hero of the comic book. I saw movies and I was the hero in the movie. So every dream that I ever dreamed has come true 100 times. These gentlemen over here, you see these type people who care, who are dedicated, you realize that it's not possible that they might be building the kingdom. It's not too far-fetched from reality.
My name is Sonny West. I was 20 years old when I met Elvis in 1958. Elvis, Red, and myself grew up in housing projects, government housing projects, where you could only make so much amount of money and you lived there. And there was 3 of them in Memphis. There was Lamar Terrace, where I was raised up, Lauderdale Courts, where Elvis was there, and then a place called Hurt Village, which Red and us always joked about that name because you were hurting. The Lamar Terrace gang was known as being the toughest gang around. We had some really bad dudes, and they started us out young. So this is Manassas Avenue, where Humes High School used to be. It is now a middle school called Humes. And this is where Elvis went to school the whole time he was in Memphis. When he moved up, he was going into the 7th grade, so he started here. This is the only school he went to in Memphis, 7th through the 12th. Elvis knew about Red, his reputation, because he went to Humes. And Red had told Elvis, about his cousin. I got a cousin that can go pretty well for the Lamar Terrace and in that gang over there. My first impression when I met Elvis in 1958 was it was hard to believe that this was such a superstar. He was such a natural, good person, attentive, caring, a warm guy. Just when you talk to him, he just talked to you like my cousin Red talked to me or some of the other guys. And he just was, I don't know, there was something about him that just drew you in.
My name is Jerry Schilling. I met Elvis in 1954 at the age of 12 years old. Growing up in North Memphis, I went to the local park one day. It's called Dave Wells Community Center, Guthrie Park. There was a little school called Guthrie. And sometimes people would play basketball, football, or whatever. It was the only kind of park to go to. I went there this Sunday, and there were 5 older boys, like high school. I was in grade school, trying to get up a 6th player to play football. And one of the older guys was a friend of my older brother's, Red West. And he said, Jerry, do you want to play with us? We went in the huddle, and I saw this guy. It was Elvis Presley. That was it for me. Changed my whole life. I wanted to be like him. He was lovable. He was dangerous. Everything a young kid would admire. I remember going home, saying a little prayer that night, saying, gosh, a real prayer, saying, I really wish he would be my friend.
When I first realized I could sing, and at about 2 years of age, I found myself singing. I was singing, and people would listen to me around the housing project where I lived. And as time went by, I was
I was about 8 years old, and they entered me in a talent show. I wore glasses, had no music, and I won, I think it was 5th place in this talent contest, this state talent contest. I got a whipping the same day. My mother whipped me for something. I wanted to ride.
My name is Marty Liker, and I first went to work for Elvis when I was 24. Elvis was a bit of a loner back then. He had maybe 3 or 4 friends that lived in the same housing project he did, and primarily was shy, did not really come out of his shell until a couple of talent shows, and the girls started screaming him. I mean, he always liked girls. I mean, I think he had more girlfriends than he had guy friends. As far as work is concerned, responsibilities as far as work, each of us had a responsibility, things to do to make it possible for Elvis to do what he needed to do. And it was almost an unsaid responsibility. I mean, people didn't have to be told, well, you have to do this today. Again, the same thing you did yesterday and the day before and the week before and what have you. That didn't need to be done. Everybody knew what they had to do so that he could be happy and live his own life. Elvis had a tremendous draw to him emotionally and physically, where you looked at him and you thought, that is probably about the best looking man I've ever seen, you know. He just had a charisma about him. He had a way of pulling you in. People call it Southern charm. He had it in spades. He had it in spades. There really wasn't much that Elvis couldn't get if he really went after it, whether it was from Southern charm or just a strong conviction of saying, I'm going to do that, and that's it. And that's what we always admired about him. But those things slipped away in the latter years. He didn't have the strong convictions. He didn't have, I'm going to get it done.
I think we're going the wrong way, man. No, we're going towards Memphis? Yeah. We're hiking.
Elvis was like, he was like my brother, my father, everything rolled into one because he took care of so many problems for me, financial, and a lot of times spiritually too. We'd talk about problems and things.
I don't care if you're an industrialist or a juggler. The object of going through this world is to hope that when you leave it, that somebody knew you were here. I guess the element of us being something or somebody was that we were because we were with it.
The other thing too that it did to us as a group, I really include Elvis in it because of the relationship that we all developed growing up with each other. I mean, we're all like brothers, and he was the guy that held us together, even after he died. I mean, the bond is so strong.
I think a lot of that's why Elvis, took in a group with him.
Because he wanted somebody he could relate to.
He had to be comfortable.
We got outside to the outside world.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I started and when I started and all that stuff, because a lot of it has been so inaccurate. A lot of people haven't really known what really happened. I just got out of high school, and I was driving a truck, and I was studying to be an electrician. And I got wired the wrong way, man. So, but I was studying to be an electrician, and one day I was driving my truck and I had a lunch break, and I went into a little record shop and I made a record for a guy, a little demonstration record. Well, the guy put the record out in Memphis. Let's go. It's my hometown. You gotta be loose when you say it, Where you from, boy? Memphis. If I get loose, I'm gonna just fall apart. Anyway, the guy put the record out, and it became pretty big in Memphis. And and all over the South, certain parts, but nobody really heard of me. So I was working for about a year and a half in nightclubs and football fields, barns, Louisiana hayride, yes sir. They threw me off the Grand Ole Opry. I went to the Grand Ole Opry, man. They gave me $6 and said, "Look, go home, man."
Elvis was not only the king, he was the boss.
You became his friend. You lived like him. There was no class system. If push comes to shove, you work for Elvis, okay? But as Elvis once told me, you know, if you're successful, you make and do things a little bit better, nicer house, maybe an airplane or something, but it all boils down to friends, family, some things to look forward to, and some people to share it with. You know, here you are in this pretty rigid Southern society. Everybody had come out of a depression from the war and everything, and this was the 50s. It was the first, I think, society of young people looking for its own identity. He's the only star I have ever met that looked like, acted like a special person, a star, before he had a hit record, before he did a movie. I've met a lot of those stars that movies and records and adulation and all those things kind of make you into a star. Elvis was born a star.
But I'll never. The first time that I appeared on stage, it was a charity thing in Memphis, in a place called The Shell. When I left the stage, they were yelling and screaming and so forth. I did 2 songs, and it scared me to death, man. I didn't know what I'd done. So the manager backstage, I said, What I do? He said, well, whatever it is, go back and do it again. So I went back out and did the same thing again. I really didn't know what the yelling was about, screaming. I didn't realize that I was moving, my body was moving. It's a natural thing to me.
Nobody commanded the stage any better than Elvis Presley.
Elvis is just standing there. He hasn't said a word yet. Bill Rady is down there in that messed up place with the microphone. Come in, Bill Rady.
He's starting to sing now. Maybe they will quiet down. And he's singing, he's moving, he's thinking where he was going. But the people can't hear a word of the song. They paid for 3 hours.
When Elvis would arrive for these tours, the first years, he was ready. I mean, he was just enjoying it to the fullest. He was out in front of that public again and performing and doing what he does best, and that's sing his song.
I was there seeing concerts in 55 and 56 and 57, the most exciting, raw, animalistic things I've ever seen. And of course, that will always be my lifelong image of Elvis Presley.
Music was the mainstream of his life.
It was a fast-paced world around him, and I don't think we had the time. I think more now we have to pinch ourselves and realize.
Well, it was moving like a freight.
Yeah,
he was like in the eye of the storm, though.
Yeah. Very nice talking to you, sir. We're going to have to run. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Gene, Elvis Presley leaves in his official car with motorcycle escort and headed now for his hotel. All these youngsters and people had come down to see him, and no one even knew where his car was going to be. But
I never will forget when he played the Astrodome, which was the first big concert in a big inside building with 60,000 people. Because the place was so big, we had to drive around where he could wave to everybody before going on the stage. When Elvis opened up the curtain and saw that crowd, he got weak in the knees, almost got sick. I swear to God, I had this premonition of another life. You know, and Elvis was standing up at the back of this Jeep. It was kind of like a chariot. And we were like in this Roman Colosseum, and people were reaching over. It's just like 7-foot wall trying to touch Elvis. And it was pretty awesome. I think, oh my God, I forgot who this guy is.
And I touched him to tell me what was on his mind.
He didn't want to know anything about business. He left all of his personal finances up to his father.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nothing against Mr. Presley. He couldn't handle it. I said to Elvis one day, Elvis, you know there's a way that you can have your money work for you. So you don't have to do all this stuff. He said, well, go tell Daddy. Well, I go out in the office and I tell Mr. Presley, I said, Elvis wanted me to say something to you about, possibly letting his money work for him. And he said, mind your own damn business.
A controversial figure in the eyes of many, Colonel Tom Parker was Elvis's manager, and without a doubt, was a force to be reckoned with.
I can't think of any right offhand.
I like to live up to my reputation of being a nice guy. This is it, folks.
Did you first meet Tom Parker?
Well, when I was with Bob Neal was my manager. The Colonel used to take shows out on the road. He'd hire me for an extra-added single.
Mm-hmm.
And he undoubtedly liked the performance that we did, so he decided to start working together. Him as my manager.
Did you pick Parker, or did Parker come for you?
Well, we more or less picked each other.
Presley was a star from the first day he ever started going into show business. I think anyone could have helped him that knows something about show business. I think my experience and, in a small way, handling his future with making contracts where perhaps someone would offer a certain amount of money and I thought this artist was worth more and I held out for my price. I've lost some deals, but I gained some others by waiting.
Trying to bring these contracts, there'll be a stack of contracts this time. And I was signing them. I said, what the hell are you doing? He said, well, Colonel's already looked them over. I said, good Lord. He never looked at the contract. He said, where'd I sign? And walk away. And I'm going, man, you ought not do that. And he said, don't tell me about business tomorrow. You don't know anything about it. I said, well, okay. All this stuff would swirl around him. And he didn't want anything to do with it.
I'm always fascinated when he's in the studio. Elvis was the most underrated producer in the history of recorded music. What does a producer do? He hires the band. He selects the music. And then Elvis would say, okay, hey guys, I want voices here. Okay, bring this down. Elvis was a natural producer. If he came in and did a session, there was always something special.
Hound Dog should be out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Now, I'm not sure, but I've got it to record yet. But, after you record it, it don't take them just a week or two to get it out.
When I met a lot of other stars, thanks to Elvis, you know, he was more comfortable with them at that time. Here we are, man, you know, just kind of thrown into this lifestyle. Really, it was like a fairy tale. I mean, I'm out of North Memphis. I mean, let's face it, you know what it's like here.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, man, you're living at Graceland, you know? I mean, it was like, if I'm dreaming, don't wake me up.
Elvis purchased Graceland in 1957, a 13.8-acre estate in Memphis, Tennessee. The place Elvis and members of his entourage, also known as the Memphis Mafia, would call home.
Elvis never knew when he came down or he came in off the road who might be in the kitchen with his mama. She'd go to the market, meet people, invite them to the house for coffee. That people she just met in the supermarket or something shopping would be there, and Elvis say, his mom say, Elvis, this is Miss So-and-so, Miss So-and-so. I just met him up there and thought I'd have him down. And he said, well, that's great, Mom, because he really adored her.
In 1957, we were doing Jailhouse Rock. And we wouldn't go to parties. And Cliff and I would just beg him, literally beg him to go to parties because we wanted to be around the different stars and things like that. And Elvis wouldn't go. So one night, Nat King Cole's secretary called, and they wanted us to go to a Halloween party at Nat King Cole's house. We all went to the party, and he was so uncomfortable that he stayed there for about an hour. He walked over to me and said, I got to get out of here. I said, what? He said, I can't, it's driving me crazy. He said, I don't like to be around those people. And I went, you are one of those people. And he said, no, I'm not. So, I mean, that's where his mentality was.
That's right. It's not egotistical, but after you're with Elvis, who the hell else is going to impress you?
It's a very different thing to be a friend of Elvis than when you go to work for him. Then you're really part of the family. And I remember going back to Graceland with my little bag, and what they call the jungle room now was a screened-in porch, back porch. And I was so worried I was going to get left, and I ran back out to Graceland and sat there on that porch for about 12 hours. We left about midnight that night. He drove every mile of the bus, and I never will forget, we would stop at truck stops, and he would get the football. This is all at nighttime. They have all these big lights out there. And I would run after the football, and he would throw the football, and I'd dive in the gravel, and, you know, you didn't care. And I was playing football with Elvis Presley, and he's a big star now. And he's my friend, you know. Then we get on the bus and just sit and talk about everything from your girlfriend to religion to philosophy. Elvis was a great, great talker. I don't know if history will ever catch up to how smart this guy was. I've been running after footballs across the country. And, you know, I knew every truck stop in the United States by the time we got to California. I never will forget, been working with him for about a year. We're out in L.A. He was sitting in the den one day, and I went to the den, and I guess at this point I'm trying to find my own place in this organization. I was just glad to be there for a year. And he had this intuitive way of reading somebody, and he said, Jerry. I said, yeah. He said, you know what's going to be the hardest thing for you to deal with? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, to do nothing. And I never have forgotten that. And I know he was talking about himself, too.
It was the colonel who dressed him in tight-fitting open front shirts and flashy trousers, but it was Elvis who put the wiggle in them. He says he doesn't wear makeup, that pasty skin is natural. He wears sideburns because, as a kid, he admired truck drivers, and they wore them. He says he's ready to be drafted if and when they call him, and yes, he'll get his hair cut because most of the guys wear crew cuts, and he wants to be one of the boys.
Elvis worked so hard from 54 to the time he went into the Army. And everything was going well, too. Colonel had set up things great. Colonel had made it possible in Elvis's mind that he had a career when he came back from the Army. Normally, an entertainer went in the Army, the career is over. Colonel kept movies being released, songs out, and he had these long-term contracts, which looked really good in the beginning. But Elvis had no script approval, music approval, none of these things. The machinery was set. All the people, William Morris Agency, RCA, the studios, for a few years now, they had gotten all their direction, all their deals was through Colonel Parker. And Elvis doesn't even like to be in those kind of meetings. And Colonel didn't understand the creativity aspect of Elvis.
My love too strong to hide. Yeah, baby. Always lived very quiet life. I ain't never did no wrong. Now I know that very quiet life has been too long. One night with you.
I was alone out to Colonel Parker one day a week, and I could hear after a recording session, Colonel would go, his wife was named Marie. Hey, Marie, can't hear Elvis singing for all those voices and all that stuff. And then I'd go home, and Elvis would get the record, and he would compare it with the acetate that he left the recording session with, and all the mix was different. It would be like if Michelangelo was giving the Pope paintings, and the Pope had these people came in, let's take a few clouds out here, let's make the blue bluer. That's what they were doing to Elvis.
1956, Elvis Presley revolutionizes rock and roll. It looked like nothing could slow him down. But something did. Drafted at the peak of his success, Presley is inducted into the Army on March 24th, 1958. He does his basic training at Fort Hood in Texas. Later, he serves the 3rd Armored Division in Germany as a truck driver. While in the Army in 1958, Elvis Presley will earn nearly $2 million. Otherwise, he will be just like any other soldier. Almost.
We heard the rumor that Elvis was coming to our base. So one night I was working late in the office with my friend George DiDimizio and my partner. I was a finance clerk for the Army. I lucked out. And we see all these people starting to gather up around outside the gates of the camp. And I asked George, what's going on? He says, well, we heard Elvis is coming to our base tonight. And all of a sudden, about 8 o'clock at night, buses come in with all these troops and kids are screaming and yelling. And Elvis was on the bus somewhere. You couldn't see him because everybody's dressed in GIs and it was dark at night, but they all stood out there for hours and hours and screamed and yelled.
According to all regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
The Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Elvis's life was not typical GI. There was always people outside of his house. The fans were always out there. It was a little tougher for him to be in the Army because everybody was watching him. And they were keeping an eye on him, make sure he did a good job or make sure he didn't goof off. So it was tougher for him than a lot of the other GIs.
How the Army would stand the impact of Mr. Presley was a big question months ago, but not now, as Elvis explained.
Elvis, since you've been in the Army, have the boys given you kind of a rough time in the barracks because of your past career, would you say?
No, sir, I was very surprised. I've never met a
a better group of boys in my life. They probably would have if it'd been like everybody thought. I mean, everybody thought I wouldn't have to work and I would be given special treatment and this and that. But when they looked around and saw I was on KP and I was pulling guard and everything just like they were, well, they figured, well, this is like us.
When he's demobbed, Elvis hopes to develop his talent as a movie actor. Meanwhile, it's the Army for Elvis the Pelvis.
Basic training wasn't hard for me at all. It was harder afterwards, after I had gotten into a regular outfit. Not the service itself, but just the surroundings, and I was in a strange land, and the outfit I was in, they had quite a bit of field duty. We stayed in the field 6 months out of the year. And it gets cold in Germany. It snows quite a bit. And it was pretty hard to adjust to.
Elvis liked to have his friends and buddies around him. He enjoyed their company. It made him comfortable, and he was basically a very shy person until he got to know you. So once he got comfortable around you, he'd rather have those people around him instead of strangers.
I'd like to say, ladies and gentlemen, that it's really a privilege to be in Europe. It's something that I've looked forward to for some time. And I consider it a privilege to be assigned to such a fine outfit as the 3rd Armored Division. And I hope that I can live up to everybody's expectations of me, and I will do my very best to.
While in Germany, during his stint in the Army, Elvis happened to meet a certain admirer.
First time he met Priscilla, I happened to be at the house that evening when she was introduced to him. When she walked in the door, I mean, very pretty young lady, but I didn't know how old she was at the time. And I figured she was about 16, but at the time she was 14, I find out later.
She liked young girls. He thought if they got 18, they were ready for Social Security. I said, listen, you better get some keys. And he said, what do we need keys for? I said, for the fucking jail cell. They're going to put our ass in for you dating a 14-year-old girl. We ain't going to be able to get out.
I'll tell you where part of that came from.
What?
Why Frank Freeman? He was 70, 80 years old.
Yeah.
And we used to notice that he would walk the studio with this beautiful, beautiful young girls. They were probably starlets. So Dr. Blank at MGM Studios, who was the studio doctor, and he asked him, he says, I see Mr. Freeman, with all these young girls. He said, he's 70, 80 years old. He said, what can you do with these girls? And Dr. Blank looked at him and he said, Elvis, when you get Mr. Freeman's age, he said, you come see me.
But she was very mature, very quiet at first, because naturally walked in the room with all these guys in there. And then Elvis, that's a pretty tough situation to be in.
Elvis, there have been a lot of rumors about your love life. Did you meet anyone special in Germany?
There was a little girl that I was seeing quite often over there that her father was in the Air Force, and actually they only got over there about 2 months before I left. I was seeing her, and she was at the airport when I left. And there were some pictures made of her. The stories came out, the girl he left behind, and all that. It wasn't like that. I mean, I had to be careful when I answer a question like that.
An international crowd of reporters and photographers from all major news outlets in Germany arrive at Ray Barrick's Friedberg for a special press conference. The most famous enlisted man and usurer during the last year and a half is about to go back to his millions of fans.
So it was farewell to military glory and the 16-year-old Priscilla. What fame for that girl to have been a friend of the Emperor of Rock and Roll.
Because he has been almost completely away from singing and acting while in the Army, reporters have plenty of questions about the future to ask Sergeant Elvis Presley. Elvis says he plans to continue with his style of rock and roll singing, but without his famous sideburns. However, his greatest interest is now in serious dramatic acting.
Hands on the package there. Hold the telegram up. Look at him, man. All right, turn around with us. Elvis, turn around with us.
Elvis, there's a report that you like the Army so much that you wanted to write a book about it. Did you ever think of re-enlisting?
No, sir. I never thought of. I never thought of re-enlisting. But maybe someday I will write a book about my experiences in the Army. You know.
Have 2 years of sobering Army life changed your mind about rock and roll?
Sobering Army life. No, it hasn't. It hasn't changed my mind because I was in tanks for a long time, you see, and they rock and roll quite a bit.
Can you give us in detail some of your future plans?
Well, the first thing I have to do is to cut some records, and then after that I have the television show with Frank Sinatra.
I may pass out.
They won't like it. Where the heck are his sideburns? German.
Well, I'll be a hound dog. And that's the opening, friends.
That was very awesome for me. So that was the big show business gig, as they would say, for me. But to top it off, I'm meeting Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, Peter Lawford, all these big stars I idolized all my life too. And I'm with Elvis, the biggest star in the world at the time. That was pretty awesome. I mean, one time I was sitting on the balcony at the Fontainebleau Hotel, looking out at the ocean, thinking of Miami Beach. I mean, this kid from Chicago, from nowhere, off the streets, is here on top of the world.
Oh, man, they were wonderful years. They were the best. The movie years were the best years that I spent with him. They were not only the first years I spent with him, but they just far outweigh the touring. You know, it wouldn't have bothered me if he had never toured again. I mean, if he had just kept, but he wanted to make other movies, and he should have. He should have had more drama, because you see King Creole and Jailhouse Rock, you know he can carry a drama. He can carry a role.
Get up. Get up. Oh, baby. Leave her alone. Get up. Get up. Leave her alone. Come on. Get out.
Oh, boy. You're a pretty fancy performer, ain't you, kid?
Now you know what I do for an encore. Come on, get out of here.
And the contracts were signed like 4 years in advance. So I had thought that they would try to get a new property for me or give me a chance to show some kind of acting ability or do a very interesting story. But it did not change. It did not change. And so I became very discouraged. They couldn't have paid me no amount of money in the world to make me feel any self-satisfaction inside.
He talked about them as being travelogues starring Elvis Presley. He said, I go somewhere and I get in a fight and I sing to women and I sing to the guy after I hit him, and he would make little jokes about it. He says, travelogue, Hawaii, Mexico, you know, everywhere he went.
But yet you still did them. You must have forced yourself.
I had to.
What kind of film would you have liked to have if you would have had your choice?
That's hard to say. I would like to have had something that was more challenging instead of Hollywood's image of what they thought I was.
Elvis would have, in any role, would have adapted to it and been able to perform fantastic.
When I went to work for him in '64, He had been back from the Army 4 years. He did 2 or 3, good movies when he came back. But the movies were getting weaker and weaker, and the soundtracks were getting, in some cases, more ridiculous and more ridiculous. And he didn't want to record too many movie songs. And he was promised, when he did a movie song, especially a situation scene, that they would never be released on records. It was another lie to Elvis. When he did Old MacDonald Had a Farm, that was never to come out.
Well, old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some cows, E-I-E-I-O. With a moo-moo here, a moo-moo there, cattle everywhere. And when those cows got out of line, hamburger medium rare. With a moo-moo here, a moo-moo there, cattle everywhere. And when those cows got out of line, hamburger medium rare.
All the business guarantees that were given Elvis were all broken, okay, which eventually broke Elvis.
Elvis's meteoric ascent to fame continued throughout the 60s. Naturally, the Memphis Mafia shouldered many burdens of the rising superstar.
There was no such thing as a job.
I helped take care of the cars. I helped do the driving. I did errands for him. We just did everything. The security evolved over a period of time because of how he became more out there. Remember,
I think the term
back in the 1960s.
The job stayed very fluid.
Yeah. And during the 60s, he didn't, he wasn't out in the public that much. He was making movies, guys. So they had security.
We lived in
at
cars,
the studio.
house, and studio.
They had
That's
security
where
on the soundstage. So, it was just, there wasn't any security. There weren't pictures taken. There's not a lot of pictures of candid shots of Elvis during the 60s, during the movie years. A lot of promotional pictures, but not fans, because he wasn't available. He wasn't there to be seen.
That was a problem. You see, I was tired of doing all the damn work, and you guys just sitting around.
I knew you were upset about that, but I wasn't going to do a thing about it.
It's showing now, Marty. No, but I think we all had certain jobs we did, but I think basically
When he
being
got
around
down
him
to
so
Duck.
much, when he wanted something, we just knew it.
Whoever was
It
there.
got to that point.
Under strict conditions from her parents, Priscilla was allowed to make short visits to see Elvis during 1962, subsequently moving in with the King of Rock and Roll at Graceland in March 1963.
Elvis was a very jealous person, okay, with anybody. And there's a line that you had to be very careful of, even if my affection for Priscilla was just on a human level, you had to be careful how you express that, where it didn't cause jealousy. I was at Graceland. I was living there within the first year, and hadn't seen Priscilla in a day or so, or Elvis. Priscilla came down the steps, and she didn't look good. I just assumed she was sick, I said, where have you been? And she said, I've just been, upstairs. And I said, are you feeling okay, Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for asking, or something, And I didn't know what was wrong was her and Elvis had been on a 2-day flight. And when she went back upstairs, I could hear the lamps flying. So evidently what happened upstairs is they continued the argument, and Priscilla said something to the effect, well, at least Jerry cares how I'm feeling. And that didn't go over very, very well. So the next day, we're watching a football game downstairs. Elvis had never said a cross word to me in all the years that I had known him. And it was like, if somebody's going to take care of Priscilla, it's me. I don't need you guys asking her how she feels. And man, I was crushed. I was crushed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to pack my bags. This was the fear of being misinterpreted as somebody that would hit on somebody's girlfriend or something like that. I was crushed, and I think he knew that.
Stuck in long-term contracts and accompanied by his unwavering hunger to become a dramatic actor, Elvis spent time in Hollywood building his acting career. During these movie years, Elvis and his Memphis Mafia took long road trips to film sets all over the United States.
In the movie years, the drugs were in control. The sleeping pills and the uppers.
And he said, I want to be sure, we stay up all night. We drive all night. I know you're not used to it, and I want you to, keep up as far as your attitude is concerned. So he said, I want to show you something. So out of his pocket came a little blue velvet case, a jewelry box. He said, open it up. Well, I opened it up, and it was just chock full of pills of every color you can think of. And I said, good God, what is this? And he said, here, let me give you a few, and this will help you stay awake and be in a good mood. I said, okay. So he picked out about 4 of them, and he said, here, don't take them all at once. Just take them every couple of hours. I stayed up for 3 days. And to be quite honest with you, it gives you one hell of a good feeling. So I kept taking them. I took them for 15 years. When you start taking the uppers, which is what they were, in order to go to sleep, you need to start taking sleeping pills. So it gets to be a vicious circle. And where today 1 will work, tomorrow you need 2, and the next day you need 3, and then the next day you need 4. And after 15 years, it gets pretty vicious.
I couldn't take them every day. Not to be the goody-goody, but I just couldn't take that pill because I knew what it was going to do to me. Make my mouth dry. It was just going to make me wired all day. And I just didn't want to do it. But I had to take them sometimes because he would stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we get up at 5 to go on location.
It could be boring, really. And most people who are involved in movies will tell you about sitting on the set all day, doing nothing, waiting.
I learned from the very start, I sleep when he sleeps. We used to have a thing, in fact, on Paramount, on GI Blues, they had a club scene in there, and he'd kept us up late, and I just couldn't stay awake, and I hadn't taken anything. So I went over to a dead set and got into a booth there in the nightclub set, and they were shooting on another one, and laid down on the booth to get some sleep. And one of the crew guys up on the catwalk pointed me out to Elvis. I found out later, he pointed me out. Said, like that. And Elvis came around when he got through with his business. He came around and looked for me. And he saw me through there because there's a couple of tables stacked up, and I kind of put a little camouflage so I couldn't be seen easy. Oh, man. He threw that table and chair, and I woke up straight up. He said, damn you, Sonny. I told you, you sleep when I sleep. I said, I'm up, boss. I just took a break. When we were out in Hollywood making the movies, even though the security thing wasn't as far as his life threatening, but people want to hit him or do something, I always looked out for him. I always watched his back. Always observed people around him, trying to see if I found someone that was going to sneak up there and try to sucker punch him. So that was just natural to do. I was there in case they did, and I was always right close to him, so I would be between them and take him out.
Carefully guarded, too, is the safety of the president and his family. A job assigned to the United States Secret Service, which maintains...
We had just all gone to bed from being up all night, and as soon as I got in my room, just out of habit, I turned the TV on. And when the news bulletin came on.
A dark page in the annals of America has been written to the crack of an assassin's bullet. A nation mourns, the world grieves. The man who became 35th president less than 3 years ago is dead.
They weren't sure at the time that he was dead So because I knew Elvis really liked him and because Elvis's patriotism would have, I went and knocked on his door. But evidently he had already taken some pills because he was almost asleep. And I knocked on the door. I said, Elvis, you need to get up. He said, get away from my damn door. Leave me alone. I said, Elvis, President Kennedy was just shot. And he may be dead. And there was silence. And then he said, tell Lillian, who was the maid out there, to bring some coffee into their den and tell the guys to come out. And so we sat in the den watching all the proceedings, on television. And then when they got Lee Harvey Oswald is when he really went berserk. In front of the TV in that house was a big, thick marble table. And when he saw them bring Oswald into that hallway, he took his coffee cup and he slammed it on that marble and it broke. And he said, goddamn son of a bitch. And he looked at all of us and he said, I'll tell you what, I don't want no measly mouth, slant-eyed son of a bitch. If somebody ever shoots me, I don't want him to be able to sit in the witness box saying, I killed Elvis Presley. He said, I want you guys to get to him first and pull his fucking eyeballs out. And that really, took us aback a little because him thinking in those terms, of somebody killing him. He applauded when Jack Ruby shot Oswald.
Oswald walks his last mile. His assailant moves in from the right.
There is Lee Oswald. He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot.
I'd like to get married. I'd like to have a family. It's a normal thing to do. I mean, who wants to grow old and be alone? You know what I mean? To find that one girl, it's a thing that you can't rush. A lot of people think if they're not married by a certain age that they're losing out. For me, I have to be completely sure. I have to be able to trust them completely. I look for a lot of things now that I used to wouldn't have looked for. A sense of humor, their taste for different things. Just a lot of things. Their understanding of me, my way of thinking. It takes a while. I mean, it takes a while to find someone or to get to trust somebody.
Like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Yeah.
Wedding bells rang in Vegas on May 1st, 1967.
Who do you think of when you have such a look? I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Yeah. Oh, please don't ask me what.
Accounts later suggested that Priscilla's father had threatened to have Elvis charged under the Mann Act, taking a minor across state lines for sexual purposes, if he refused to marry her.
The day he asked me to be the best man, he told me,
Yeah.
I don't want to get married, but I'm being forced to.
Yeah.
Because Elvis's lifespan with a woman was anywhere from 2 to 4 years.
I need to interject. It wasn't because he didn't love her.
No,
he did love
he
her.
cared
He didn't
about
want to
her.
get
Sure he
married
did.
because he shouldn't have been married. He
No.
didn't want to marry.
No, I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the key.
She knew what she was getting into after she was here for maybe 6 months.
Well, she was in the whirlwind. There was no doubt about that.
Once she had a ring on her finger is when she tried to separate Elvis from us.
That's a good point.
Because the fact of the matter is, we would have loved to spend more time with our families.
Yeah.
But he insisted, as you all know, he insisted that we be there.
That's right.
He pushed her in a certain position. We've all agreed with this.
Oh, he had every position you could think of.
Yeah, but I mean, she was only around when
Pick
he
a
wanted
position,
her around.
Delvin.
Billy did. Billy did.
Yeah, pick a position.
But he really gave her no choice because he didn't leave
Perez
her
had
alone
more
so
airtime
much.
than a Goodyear Blend.
I think he tried.
He left her alone a lot.
I think he tried, and and right after they got married, remember that he cut back on the group. So I think he was trying to make that change. Colonel liked to change, Priscilla liked to change to some degree.
Well,
She
Colonel
would like
liked
to
to keep
cut
that
it down,
control factor,
But he didn't like it.
February 1st, 1968, saw an expansion of the Presley family. Priscilla gave birth to Elvis's only child, a daughter named Lisa Marie.
You can do anything but lay over my blue suede shoes. You can knock me down, step on my face, stand on my eyes all over the place. Do anything that you want to do, but honey, lay over my shoes and don't you step on my blue suede shoes. You can do anything but lay over my blue suede shoes. Play something.
The King portrayed his final acting role in 1969 after starring in 30 feature films. He looked to reignite his music career, having not performed publicly for over 7 years.
Well, it's one for the money, two for the show. Way to get ready now, go, can't go, don't you step on my blue suede shoes. You can do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoes. Oh, it's a blue suede shoes, blue suede shoes, baby. Blue suede shoes, blue suede shoes. You can do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoes.
The King was making a comeback.
I just made a movie of the last tour that I did. It's the first live concert that we ever filmed, so that's my next project. It's coming out. I just missed it. I missed the live audience. So just as soon as I got out of the movie contracts, I started to do live performances again.
Elvis's electrifying live performances took him to Sin City, where his manager, Tom Parker, secured a residency at the International Hotel.
What really brought the International Hotel deal together, we had done the special, Singer Sewing Machine
in
special.
68.
For some reason, I was with Elvis by myself, just Elvis and myself. And Colonel Parker met us at the airport, the driver.
I'm going to tell you a little story so you'll understand what I'm talking about.
And Elvis and I were sitting in the back seat. Colonel was saying, you can take this show on the road. With the band, the whole thing, you can play Vegas. And Elvis turned around and looked at me and he said, you get the feeling that I'm getting ready to play Vegas? I said, sounds like it to me.
Salad.
I'd like to welcome you to the Big Freaky International Hotel. I'd like to thank you for coming out. This is my first appearance and first live appearance in 9 years. Thank you. Appeared dead a few times, but but I really like it, and I hope you do too.
From 67 through 71, he was dynamite.
72, he started falling apart.
Yeah.
The greatest pictures that were taken of Elvis was in those years, where he looked so phenomenal.
165,
he was absolutely scary looking. He was so handsome. He was just deadly.
His spirits were up at that time, too. He was very high.
And he was happy about being in Vegas. That was a thrill. But he was stuck with it because Colonel had locked the deal. He didn't like the idea of doing 2 shows a night, sometimes 3, 7 days a week, and it bothered him. And it festered and festered and festered until the very end. He hated it so bad he wouldn't do it.
We leave the studio and nobody can sleep for hours. It takes at least 4 or 5 hours to even begin to unwind. And we usually wind up doing this type of stuff.
It seems to be kind of like a relationship going on stage. It's like everybody is a friend of everybody else on stage. And that's something very rare.
I think it's because we enjoy it, and we constantly enjoy it, which means that You know, we do 2 shows a night for 5 weeks, but we never let it get old. Every song is like we do it for the first time, and that's one of the secrets, you know.
Elvis had achieved everything he could in America and set his sights on performing overseas.
There's so many places that I haven't been yet. Like, I've never played New York here, you know. I've never been to Britain either, you know. I'd like it to, yes, sir. I'd like to very much. I'd like to go to Europe.
Had he known he's going to Europe, he would have gone on the strictest regimen that anybody could. And I promise you, when we got off that plane in London, he'd have scared people to death. He'd look so damn.
Sure, like the satellite show. Remember how he got in shape for that?
That's right. I mean, he had a charge to do something. The great thing that kept Elvis going was from one thing to the other. What happened to him is Colonel let him die of apathy. And I blame Tom Parker as more as I blame anybody in this world for putting him the way he did, because Tom Parker was an illegal alien and would not go out of the country. And as a consequence, we stuck our ass over here forever. Had he toured the world outside the United States, he has still been fucking alive.
The morning Elvis died.
Amen. Colonel, one day I said, you know what? I said, every damn thing is just shooting your mouth off. He got really mad at me. In fact, he called Elvis to fire me once again. And I said, you got to get him out of the country. I said, we've worn this country out. You have got to get him around the world. I don't care about security. I don't care about anything. You got to get him out. And he said, we can't. I said, Colonel, you can do it. It needs to be done. And I said, this will change this whole guy's career.
I got to tell you what the Colonel told me. I got to tell you this, Martin. This isn't defense of the Colonel. It's a fact.
Fuck the Colonel.
Parker was concerned about the drugs and the guns in the other countries.
He was concerned about himself.
He cannot get away with carrying those guns. He cannot get away with those pills.
He was concerned about himself, too.
He can't do it, and we can't go there unless he can stop and not take it.
He would have.
Dr. Nick with him.
Well, he would have.
He said there's still a limit.
Well, you know, his behavior really changed a bit as the 70s went on. Primarily, I think, you know, at a boredom, and he needed a change, and the more pills he took, you know, it's just a fact of life. The more pills he took, that didn't help.
Plus the threats, you know, on his life. That didn't help at all, you know, so.
I mean, it was a combination.
You know, the life that he lived, paranoia is like, you know, it's unexplainable at times, and he really, you know, he just got terribly insecure.
In 1969, when Charles Manson kills Sharon Tate and all those people up there, remember? Scared him to death. He armed every one of us. That's when it became very paranoid. And then we get the death threat in Las Vegas, and he has this picture of Manson in that courtroom, and he's picturing someone like that sitting in a courtroom that their claim to fame was they had shot and killed Elvis Presley. And he took Jerry and Red and myself, who were doing the security mainly at that time, and said, tearfully, if it happens, I want you to get to him first. I don't deserve to be shot, killed by anybody. And then he told us what he wanted us to do to him. Most of the time when we toured, I was with Colonel Parker, the advanced team. I went in with him and set up the security for the hotels. We set up that security so good. The paper said the Secret Service could take security lessons from Elvis Presley security because they said we knew he was going to be here. We never could find him. When the death threats first started happening, they just kind of snowballed. We try to keep them quiet. Yeah. Because we don't want the copycats, okay? So we kept these things quiet, and it worked. We had bomb threats. Most people will say, we had a bomb threat at the show, and all of a sudden the papers and people, we kept it quiet because we didn't want to have a bomb threat at every venue we played because we had one at the last one. So someone's going to call in another one at the next one. So we kept a lot of this quiet, just as we kept a lot of things about us and Elvis quiet over the years. Nobody could get things from us, remember?
We were a conspiracy of silence, and we kept it that way. That's the way. I mean, nobody really pierced our veil. It just didn't happen.
I'd like to say something right here. Those of you who saw the morning paper or the evening paper, whatever it was, they gave us a fantastic write-up. Now they did, except they said I had a paunch here, and I want to tell you something. I got the damn paunch. I wore a bulletproof vest on stage. True. You know, in case some fool decides to take a 22 and blow my belly button off.
We used to, as an example, even in the very early 60s, we used to go snake hunting. There was this lake near Graceland where we'd take shotguns, and he'd kill the snakes. And one time, he almost shot Joe Esposito, because Joe, not knowing about snakes, picked one up by the tail, and he didn't know what kind of snake it was. Elvis took aim and shot the snake's head off while Joe was holding his hand. I'm glad it wasn't me. But he always had that fondness, but it got even more when he started putting it in terms of protection. We used to joke because he used to have a gun here, and a gun here, and a gun here, and a gun in his boot, and a gun in his back, and he'd just go out to go to the movies. Plus, some of us had guns. You know, we were all armed because he didn't want to take any chances.
Vegas provided countless temptations for Elvis, but it was Colonel Parker that would fall to the seduction of the bright lights of Sin City.
Colonel Parker probably was one of the most degenerate gamblers I've ever known in my life. In Nevada, they used to say his money's not worth anything. He played roulette and would put chips on every number. He would play craps and bet the horn, the center. The great precipitation of problems with Elvis and the Colonel was over his gambling. And Elvis believed toward the end, that the reason he was playing the hotels was trying to pay off the Colonel's debts.
When we were playing Vegas, and I'd got Elvis downstairs for the early show, and I had to go back up to the suite, so instead of going through the back corridors, I went out the front and went through the casino, and Colonel was at a roulette table there, and my wife was pregnant. And Colonel said, "Sonny, give me a number." And I said, "Well, my child is due on the 24th of September, so 24. So he put down a couple of chips on 24. George Parkhill put about 10 down. It hit. Straight up. Colonel said, "Why didn't you tell me you was real sure about that number?"
Yeah. One night I was up about, I think I was up $50,000, $60,000. I was running the crap table crazy, and he came up and took my money and put it on Don't Pass.
You threw a 7.
And I threw a 7 and lost it all. One pop. And I wanted to throw up, but I couldn't. And I said, Jesus God, I said, I've worked my butt off here. I said, he said, "How much did you start off with?" I said, "I started off with $2,000. So he counted out $2,000 and gave it to me. He said, "Now you're even." And I went, God almighty. For broken hearted keep flowing from the desk clerks dressed in black. For they've been so long on the street. You gotta tell the tale, but it's take a walk down lonely street to
I got sick one night last week, and I had a temperature of about 102. Wait a minute. don't float 102 temperature. No, I had a temperature. It was a flu going on in this town, and all my employees were dropping like flies. And they were in the room with me, get me dressed, and they're breathing in my face. And so I caught the flu, and I missed one night, which I don't like to do. I've only missed about 6 or 7 nights in 19 years from illness. Because to me, a germ is an enemy, and I hate that son of a bitch, and I'll fight it, and that's why I went to the hospital. Went to the hospital once in my life. And then it was only for 3 days because they had a little bronchitis trouble in the tubes. And you know how they do in the hospital? They check you for everything in the world, man. I mean, liver, they'll find something wrong with you. They'll create something if you ain't got it. That guy took a liver biopsy. You know what a liver test is? You know what it do? The doctor comes in and says, "Don't look at me." Turns your head, takes a needle this long, goes right between your ribs, pulls out a picture of your liver. I swear to God, that's it. John, you know what I'm talking about. And so I said, he said, "I don't move for 24 hours. And here I was, like this. Damn, what did he do to me? I was okay. I was getting well, and he come in and stabbed me. I swear to God, I saw him out of the corner of my eye because I can't help it. I'm trained that way. He looked like a samurai warrior. He said, "Chilla!" With that needle, man. Fastest son I've ever seen in my life, boy.
Ironically, the first day I went to work for him, in '64, he had taken too much sleep medication. And when I was first getting to Graceland, Vernon was walking down the steps with Elvis with a breathing thing on. He was having a hard time breathing, and when he saw me, he kind of snapped out of it. And brilliantly he said, and we're in Memphis, he goes, and he took the breathing thing off because he didn't want me to see him in a compromising situation. He said, kind of winked at me and said, "Boy, this California air will get to you." and it was never mentioned again. I'd only seen Elvis as this god, whether we were playing football or fast-witted, all this stuff. And here's being helped down the stairs with a breathing thing. I've seen him way overweight, almost between 5 movies. It didn't just happen in 1977 or 76. Always came back. And that was that was the part of the inner circle. You could gain 30 pounds and go to movies and nobody knew about it because it was, wasn't going to get to the press. It wasn't, nobody was going to take pictures, anything like that. When you're in the situation, it's so much easier to look back or to question than when you're living it. And don't forget, when you're in the situation, it's not like all of us were not staying up late at night, not taking a sleeping pill to go to sleep. It's not like we were these straight guys with this one freak over here. It wasn't that way. We were all in the boat together in various levels.
The kind of pills that we were taking in that year and a couple of years before that were the sleeping pills and the downers and the pain pills. And those things are the opposite of uppers. They're the opposite of speed that bring you up. These things, they brought you down. I look back now and I know that I used to sit there with a sour look on my face, like I was mad, sad, or whatever you want to call it. And I know that didn't help the atmosphere, his atmosphere, or anybody else's atmosphere or mine. But that had to play a big part, in my opinion, of the way he was.
These were prescription drugs. Now, the doctor's writing them for him. He's abusing them, but they're not illegal drugs in his mind. But he wants to stop the people out on the street getting heroin and cocaine to young people and trying to influence them to get on to drugs and things of that nature. So that's what it was in his mind. As intelligent as Elvis was in so many ways, he was naive in thinking that there were separate issues there, because there really wasn't.
I think the main thing about the situation with all the drug stuff that he was taking is the way it affected us. Everybody knows how it affected him, but it just totally terrorized us. Every day, the conversations would start with this and end with this, and it became an endless battle within the group to somehow outwit him. Remember that?
Yes.
We'd go to Aspen, we'd go to Snowmass, we would go to Hawaii, anywhere just to sort of get him out of rhythm. And if we got him out of rhythm, he would be straight and he would be fun. But then, like anybody, he would slip into it. So what we did is we really sort of majored everything we had and knew at the time to prevent it. And we did the best we could. And then he would fire you and you couldn't do any good. But if you hung in there, you could possibly keep him alive another day.
Everyone knew that if they can't be around him, he's going to fire everybody.
Yeah,
you couldn't do anything.
And then you can't help.
We had a group effort a couple of times, actually, to address Elvis. It's hard to psychoanalyze everybody. Everybody's relationship was with Elvis. Our secondary relationship was with the other people. I think Elvis has given up on some of his dreams at this particular point. I think he's getting tired. I think he's getting bored. I think there are new people coming around that probably think that's the norm. But for us that really knew Elvis most of his life, this was not the norm for him.
I would go into like just really feeling horribly sad. But I was just mad. I stayed mad. I just could not believe that he did that to himself. I just could not believe it. I mean, Elvis, he took the same load on an empty stomach that he took when he was eating. So it went to his system faster.
And, he was losing a little of his patience. There's no way of getting around the fact that the drugs were affecting him, not just physically. It's hard for me to admit to that, but I think we do more injustice by not admitting it.
The worst thing that Elvis did, and it got me upset, got Sonny upset, is that he would use our names on prescriptions.
I had a situation, I must tell you, that one time a liquid Demerol came to the house on Montebello Drive in my son's name, and my son was like 4 or 5 months old, by a doctor, a dentist in California that had written for Elvis. I intercepted it to see what it was, and I had no idea that my son's name was on there. I want to see what it was and see if there's something I could do to change some of the strength of it or whatever. And there it was on this liquid Demerol bottle, Brian West. I went to Schwab's, took the bottle. I said, I want this taken off right now. I want it removed from your records. And so help me, I don't care who calls it in. If you ever send another drug up to that house in my wife or my son's name, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in serious trouble. Yeah, well, he did that so it wasn't in his name. So that if they ever checked, whoever keeps tabs on these things wouldn't see all these in his name. An investigative reporter for 2020 found that he had written 10,000 tablets or medication, not individual. I'm talking about the total amount of pills and everything, 10,000 in 1 year's time. And of course he said, well, some of the guys shared in those. Elvis didn't share. his drugs with you, man. I mean, he might give you a Percodan if you hurt yourself or something like that, but he's not giving it to you on a basis where you can just go ahead and get high from it every day.
Elvis is in the hospital, doing quite well. And he didn't like the hospital food, so the maids would make food at Graceland, and Aunt Delta would put clean pajamas in a bag. Aunt Delta said, you know, Elvis is expecting this bag. I don't know where Sonny is. And I said, well, I'll take it, you know. I'm going up there anyway. And she said, okay. And there was a package on the top of the bag. And I said, Aunt Delta, what's this? And she said, I don't know. It came from the office. I'm supposed to put it in there. We kind of had a philosophy of not just taking unmarked packages to Elvis. We had a good security system. Didn't want to open up something dressed to Elvis, but I wanted to take it up there, unless we did. And opened it up, and it was some type of prescription. I said, you know, I'm going to go see Dr. Nick on the way up. So I went to Nick's office, and I said, look, evidently Elvis is expecting this package. And here's what's in it. It looks like some heavyweight painkiller or whatever. He said, I cannot get any help from the other doctors. And he said, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt. He had his nurse have it analyzed at a little clinic there. And I said, Nick, I don't know what to do. I mean, this is probably my job, but I don't care. If that's what it takes. He said, you know, no, take it up there. I said, really? He said, yeah, take it to him. He said, I want to see what he does. I go up there, and Vernon's in the room and a couple of guys, and Elvis knew. And I started to explain to Elvis why this bag was open, because I haven't even get this package in the bag, haven't even given it to him yet. And he said, guys, will you excuse me? So everybody walked out but me. I said, Elvis, I didn't know where this package was from, so I opened it. And he said, look, I didn't want to embarrass my dad, but he's having some prostate problems, and I got this medication for him. And I said, oh, okay. So I gave him everything, and he put the medication in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. I talked to Nick. I said, Nick, what happened? He said, it's still in the medicine cabinet. He said he hadn't touched it. So after about 3 days, Dr. Nick walked into the bathroom there and acted like he just found this. I said, Elvis, what is this? And he said, oh, probably whoever was in here before left it.
Down in Louisiana, where the alligators grow so mean, lived a girl that I swear to the world made the alligators look tame.
The point is, here was Elvis wanting to do great, was real clear, and there's a doctor in Las Vegas sending him exactly the reason why he was in the hospital. And we can say he had a good career, we can say this, we can say that, but the guy's dead. He shouldn't be gone today, and he's been gone 25 years. Of course I'm angry. You know, if I really think about it, I'm extremely angry. Here's a guy that helped everybody else. If you were sick, not just with money though, he helped you talk things through, whatever else. I don't think he got the reciprocal from his friends.
Everybody said it was a shame, 'cause her mama was a working on a chain. Talk a little push.
The normal anatomical situations of a person getting older, precipitating it with what he did to cause him to get older quicker
was not good. And you don't want anybody that's your friend to go through that. And I think the horrendous part of it is that we could not stop it. I think to the day I die, that'll be one of my burdens. And, we tried and we tried, but we couldn't. He was his own worst enemy.
Unhappy with his marriage to Priscilla, Elvis filed for divorce at the beginning of 1973. Elvis's mental and physical health began to deteriorate, stuck in a vicious cycle of prescription drug addiction while coming to terms with a divorce. This fueled allegations of recreational drug use from the press.
In this day and time, you can't even get sick. You are strung out. Oh, by God, I'll tell you something, friend. I have never been strung out in my life, except on music. When I got sick here in the hotel, I got sick here that one night. I had 102 temperature. They wouldn't let me perform. On 3 different sources, I heard I was strung out on heroin. I swear to God, hotel employees, Jack, bellboys, freaks that carry your luggage up to the room, people working around, talking, maids. And I was sick. I had a doctor, had the flu, and I got over one day. But all across this town, I was strung out. So I told him earlier, and don't you get offended, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking to somebody else. If I find or hear the individual that has said that about me, I'm going to break your goddamn neck, you son of a bitch. That is dangerous. That is damaging to myself, to my little daughter, to my father, to my friends, my doctor, to everybody, my relationship with you, my relationship with up here on the stage. It is dangerous. I will pull your goddamn tongue out by the roots.
Elvis had a temper. He had a bad temper. His mother had one. And I think he got that from her, but that's about the only quality that he got from her that wasn't good, because everything else about her was giving and warm and sharing it. His temper was like a black cloud when it came in full blown, buddy. It was a Category 5 tornado, okay? It just covered all the area around, the whole room, the whole atmosphere. And you didn't know until you knew who it was about that had got him that way, what thoughts, who he was thinking about that got him this, or who had done something.
I was in Vail, Colorado, and I was in charge of our condos, and the house was up, and Elvis wanted to stay longer. We were just mobiling and everything but skis, And I moved to this real nice condo that was in the complex that Elvis had rented, and I was staying at the house where he was. Been a long day, long couple of days. I'd had very little sleep, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, Elvis calls, and I'm in the master bedroom because nobody's there, and said, Jerry, I want you to move back to the house because I'm going to come and move in the condo. And I said, you know what, I'll just move over to this little bedroom, but, suite's here. And he said, no, he said, I'm going to bring Billy and forgot somebody else. And I said, man, I'm tired. I'm just going to be in the small bedroom. Elvis comes in, and he's mad that I'm still there. I forgot what the conversation was, but I just said, you really want me to move out of here right now at 3 a.m? At that point, he said something to the effect, oh, you can stay here. I said, I don't think so. I don't think I want to. And we had this big argument back and forth. And I have to say, in this situation, Elvis was very unreasonable. If I was just an employee and not a friend and an employee, it would have been okay. But I felt that fringed on our friendship. That was a little insensitive. And maybe I've always been accused of being oversensitive, but that's okay. So I go back to the house and I start making my plans to leave. Elvis gets on the phone to me, and I don't think he even remembered the night before. And he says, Jerry, how'd all the properties look for the next 3 days? And I said, everything's fine. I said, I'm leaving. And he said, why? And I said, I just think it's time to go.
His temper came out several times at me during the years I worked for him. Some of us talked it over one day about how bad the situation was going with Elvis. And we discussed it with some of the guys that were getting it to him in a way that, don't do it anymore, you're going to be hurt. And we're going to turn your doctor friends in to the medical association. Well, it dried up for a while. The guys were scared of us, the ones of us that were going to do something to him physically. Elvis finally said, what is going on? How come I'm not getting this or that? And finally, Ricky, his brother, his stepbrother, told him what was going on, that we had threatened them. Elvis called us in on the carpet, told us we better stay out of his business. It was none of our business. He was in charge. He knew what he was doing. He needed it right now. He was asked, well, what happened to the good old days when you didn't need it? And he said, there are no more good old days. So he said, if you don't stop it, you're going to be looking for other jobs. We didn't stop it. 3 or 4 months later, we were fired by his order through his father. He was told, we know from Linda Thompson, she was present. Elvis told his dad to give us enough money to live on for 2 or 3 months because he was going to hire us back. The amount mentioned was $5,000. He said, I've just got to show him I'm still the boss. Well, instead of his dad doing that, he called us in on the phone. He gave us 3 days notice and 1 week's pay and said goodbye. I broke down and cried. I was emotionally knocked on my ass. I just couldn't believe it, what I had committed for him and for him to do this. I had been fired and talked about being fired over the years, but there was something about this one because of the reason. Every other time it was like over a girl. It really was.
Owing to his increasing dependency upon prescription drugs, an ailing Elvis was once again admitted to hospital in 1975.
If you'll remember correctly, in late 74, whatever, up College Park, Maryland, he got out of that limousine. I helped him out like I always do at the back of the hotel. His hair was unkempt. It was always done before it was unkempt. He didn't have a hat or one of those hats or anything on it. And I thought, what in the world? He said, hey, Sonny, very slurred. And I thought, oh, boy. We got upstairs. I asked the guys what was going on. They told me. We went up to the security room and we said a circle prayer for Elvis because I was so scared of what was happening.
That episode toward the end of his life was the most terrorizing thing we'd all gone through. All the fun that we had had 20 years before was gone and became joyless. It became moments of great fun followed by continual panic.
In 1975, what I had been seeing a little bit of the previous year or so was getting worse. And I was very concerned about his health. And it wasn't like it had been before when he was taking the uppers and the sleeping pills. When he started experimenting with the down stuff, that's when we started getting concerned.
Unable to shake his addiction, the King was rushed to hospital for a third time in 1977.
One time we were in the bedroom talking, and he said, Lamar, he said, I'm probably standing over your grave when they put you in the ground. I said, well, let me preface what you're saying here with something of mine. I said, for some strange reason, I can never see you as an old man. And I never could. I used to try to, and I never could. And I always wondered, what was that problem? And the problem, I think, was that I saw what all was going on.
I am very upset today how people think of us.
Yeah.
And it bothers me to no end. Sometimes I grab them and shake them and say, listen, you idiot, we did everything we could. You keep talking about why didn't people around him do more? We did. We got fired. We got dismissed. We were his friends. Yeah, we were his friends. That's why we went to the wall for him every time. And if I could have done anything more that I think of Lamar, I would have done it. I sleep at night because I know I made my move. I made my move to do what I could to get him off. And it didn't work. And I got fired for it.
One night, just him and I was sitting over in that chair, that round chair in the bedroom, that leopard skin chair. Remember, it was circular, it was just completely round over in the corner. And he kept looking at me. He said, Lamar, there'll always be a star in your crown. Well, I didn't know what he meant by that. And I said, well, who's wearing a crown? What are you talking about? And I just, he said, because, you're nice to people and you take care of people. And I said, yeah, it's part of my nature. And I said, and he was starting to start. I said, you know what? I said, you're going to probably fire me for what I'm about to say, but I said, I'm going to say it because I got to get it off my chest and it's bothering me. And he said, now you've established what's going to happen. I said, you're going to die. I said, you cannot keep like you're going. You're going to die. I said, you are on the verge of dying. And when I looked at him, and he looked back at me and he said, let me tell you something. This is how his mind worked. He said, I'll be there when they lower your big ass into the ground. And I said, no, you won't. And he got mad and he said, if you bring this up again, he said, I'll drop kick your ass to Cleveland. I said, Elvis, I don't have to bring it up. People see it.
That was my biggest fear around him. I just could not see Elvis Presley dying. I could see him stepping out on that stage and not being able to do his show and the fans booing him. I could see that. And I knew what that would do to him.
The fans would not.
That would have.
You know what happened? You know what happened to Elvis? Let me give you a classic example of fans literally can cause you a lot of problems and they don't mean to. They accepted him the way he was.
In any manner.
Had they got up and said, get fucked, we don't like the way you look, we're not coming to your shows, and I promise you, in 48 hours or 72 hours, he'd have got himself so shaped up, it'd have been unbelievable. In 6 months, he'd have been straight.
I don't know how you felt, but, when we left in 76 and wasn't around anymore, other than talking to some of the guys, I never thought he'd die. I didn't think he was about to die. I don't like to fly. I got on an airplane with Elvis, and I knew there was no way that plane was going down because I just thought that God wouldn't do that.
I don't care if I die. I said flip, flop, and fly. I don't care if I die. Don't ever leave me. Don't ever say goodbye.
I never thought he was going to live. I kept saying, I said, guys, this guy is not going to make it. I used to tell Colonel. And I'd tell Billy, remember we used to sit down, I said, that guy ain't gonna make it. I said, there's no way a person can put himself through what he's putting himself through and make it. I thought that he had so much more to offer. This man was so multi-talented. He was a guy who never had acting school and was turning into a really good actor, I thought. And he was just a lot of good songs left in him. Could sing his butt off.
Oh, when I see him on stage performing in the manner that he started performing there at the end, where he wanted to do the best show he could, but with what he was
nothing left,
where he was at, he was really burning, and the light was getting dimmer. But when I see or think of him at that time, Lamar, and I remember when I first met him. First time I saw him live in person at Tech High School when he sang a few songs, just him and his guitar at lunchtime over there. Saw him at the Tucson Rodeo Grounds when y'all came. This was with the group, remember? So
I remember
you
we
were there in
Tucson,
Tucson at the rodeo grounds. And then when I met him up close and personal, when I was introduced to him by my cousin Red, who brought me in to the group, I couldn't believe it was Elvis Presley.
Look, all things change.
Could not believe it.
I mean, all things regardless. I mean, Sinatra, you know, go down the list. I mean, there's very few. I give Tom Jones a lot of credit for keeping himself in good health. Mm-hmm. God only knows, I don't know how he did, but he has
worked
done
out
it
every day.
Yeah, he worked out, and I think he's really, you know, and it's a compliment to him. Elvis did the complete opposite.
I could not believe how he deteriorated in the year I was gone. When I saw the CBS special, I was shocked and I was pissed. And I called Colonel Parker one of the few times I ever did a negative. How could you let him? I called him and I went and met with him. How could you let him be on camera like that? And he said, well, you're a manager, because I managed the Beach Boys at this time. You're a manager. You have to give the artist offers. I said, how could you? He said, I put an offer out there that was ridiculous. And CBS came back with it. And I took it to Elvis, and he wanted to do it. The point is that he wasn't in great shape when I left, but he certainly wasn't. When I saw that, yeah, man looked like he was going to die.
Goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love.
What's going through your mind is that, did I do enough? Can I do any more? Can he hold together? It's like when I called him from L.A. when we were going to do that last tour. I said, you just need to shut it down. I said, fuck the tour. I said, cut it off. Let's just, I said, let's just cancel this tour out. And he said, Lamar, I've got a payroll. Which, when you say that, you go, well, he's right. But at the same time, I told him, I said, listen, you got 2 or 3 guys around here that'll go to Hawaii with you. And I said, we'll hang out and you just, and you can get yourself back together again. He said, let's talk about that after this tour's over. It sounds like a good idea. He didn't make it.
Interrupting with a bulletin just in from Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis Presley may be dead. An unconfirmed wire service report says the 42-year-old singer was found unconscious in his Graceland mansion in Memphis, rushed to a local hospital where efforts to revive him reportedly were futile.
Elvis, I thought he had no right to die. I thought he had no right to die at that age. I think that he left too much on the table. If anybody ever left too much on the table, Elvis did.
I was doing an interview, and he was already lying there dead. Of course, none of us knew it. I was out in California. And I was doing an interview with Bob Green, I think his name is, with Chicago.
Yeah, remember it well.
And he asked me at the end of the interview, and we were talking about what kind of shape he was in and how he was going downhill. And he asked me, so it wouldn't surprise you at all then to pick up a paper someday and it's saying Elvis Presley had died. And I said, no, I said it wouldn't, but it also would. It's almost like he's immortal, but when you come down to the truth of the situation, yeah, like I said, it was a double-edged sword. I thought it was immortal. I mean, every time something happened like an angel, his guardian angel pulled him out of it. So I had that feeling, But at the same time, Billy, what I saw in 76, it scared me to death.
And he died by himself.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me fucking mad.
Yeah.
That makes me mad. He died by himself.
And the cause of death is cardiac arrhythmia due to undetermined causes. Now, what this means is that there are several cardiovascular diseases present, which include a history of mild hypertension, which was under pretty good control, and some coronary artery disease. Now, these two diseases may have been responsible for this cardiac arrhythmia.
Almost like predestination. It was like he was... I've always said that Elvis was like a artillery shell. They loaded him up, fired him, and he fell out of the ark. And just it went into the ground and blew up.
I look at myself strictly as a human being who's, like I said, been very lucky, but whose life has blood running through my veins and can be snuffed out in just a matter of seconds.
Nobody wants to, especially die alone, I don't think. It'd have been so nice if we all could have been around him. But, I mean, as it was, he fell forward on the floor and died. It's horrendous. I mean, somebody should have got in there to him. And I won't say names, but it shouldn't have happened.
Let me tell you something. This is very important. There was a misty type overcast rain, and it was not forecast the day before. And I said to my wife, I said, Judy, honey, I thought this was supposed to be a pretty day. A little fall early and then burn off. She said, I don't know. So we left. We get our mare, who's across the street in a corral. We're taking her. I've got a halter on her. I'm taking her down to the stallion, who's on a hot walker down there, trotting around, talking to her. She's talking back to him. I look back, and that tail of hers is straight up in the air. I said, well, maybe it's ready today. As I'm going down there to put her into the barn for the breeder to come out, he comes running out. He comes out, and he said, Sonny, man, have you heard? And I looked at him, I said, Elvis died. And he said, yeah. I went to my knees. I just cried out loud and went to my knees. Let go of the horse, everything. I lost it. Judy reached down and grabbed me. Harvey took the horse. I started crying. He didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve this. I got up, and he's saying, I hear him apologizing, and Judy saying, no, Harvey. He said, I didn't know he was that close. He said, never mind, it's okay. I walked over to his fence, over their ranch fence with those long white planks, and I hauled off, and I hit one of those and broke it. I said, I got to get out of here. So we left, went home. I started walking around from room to room, just crying. Phone's ringing. Can't answer it. Judy had to answer it, take all the calls. I couldn't talk to my parents, any of my sisters, or my brother. I could talk to nobody. All I could think of was the good things. That's what happens. That's weird. You can have some problems with someone, but boy, when they pass away, they don't even come into the thought. It's all good, fun, warm, good things.
I was in my house that he bought me, and I had worked a couple of tours and gone back with Elvis as tour manager of the Beach Boys. Then this was the day I was to leave my first tour with the Beach Boys as manager. And we had this drought in California for some time, and I got a call from Pat Perry, who was a friend and also did Elvis's hair, who lived in my neighborhood. And she was hysterical and said Elvis died and that was it. And I lost it, you know, because I knew there was no questions. When she said it, I knew it was real. And I walked out in the balcony and it started raining. I don't know how long I stayed out there until I heard the phone ringing, and it was Priscilla. And she said Vernon was sending the plane back. She gave me all the details. And a friend of mine who was a friend of Elvis's who I had introduced to, and they kind of had a friendship, Rick Husky, picked me up to take me to the airport. And we're driving down and the radio's on and they play an Elvis record and the disc jockey says by the late Elvis Presley. I couldn't believe it. I was the first one at the airport. Rick dropped me off and I walked on the plane. And everything was just there because he was on the way, getting ready to do a tour. And I walked back to the bedroom. His pajamas were laid out there. Books were open where he had left marks. I still get chill bumps even thinking about that day. I'm feeling lost at this point. I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling questioning, loss. Anger didn't hit me until 2 weeks later. Now I'm out of Memphis. I'm out of my support group. And I literally went berserk. There was a marble fireplace, and I realized I'd never see Elvis Presley again. And it's the first time I realized it. And I hit this wall so hard, I crushed my hand. I had to have an operation. Still have scars.
I think the best way to explain when Elvis died, it was like a train stopping. I know for about a year after Elvis died, I couldn't hear. I was almost deaf. It was like, they say that the accident doesn't kill you. It's the stopping that kills you. And the stopping, it stopped. It went to a screeching halt. There's not a day that goes by I don't think about it. I have dreams about it. One night I just jumped up in the bed, I was sitting straight up. Elvis said, "Holly, Lamar." And I heard him, and he woke me up. I heard his voice like he was right next to me. And I was in a cold sweat. She said, "What is it?" I said, "He just hollered at me." And every day it goes on. I think in any other part of this business, if you look at it, he was responsible for so much. And yet when he died, he took so little with him. And I think that that's sad. He didn't have the chance to really enjoy what he could enjoy. He enjoyed the planes and the trappings of money and everything. But I think that really there comes a time in your life where you really enjoy a lot of things that you couldn't when you were at a certain age. I miss the companionship of him. I miss the fun and as the older you get, you don't think of the bad times as much as you do the good times. And I miss that. And what I had with him and what all of us had with him, nobody has that in a lifetime.
Well, like brothers, and he was the guy that held us together.
We're family. No matter what we go through, we're all there for each other. And if Elvis did not do anything in this world, he forged a friendship and a family that lingers to this day.
Started in Memphis, started in Memphis. When you can't say it, you can sing it out loud. When you can't say it, you can sing it out loud.